Good evening, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to the Pink Puff League finale. My name's Vitasia, and I'm joined on the mic with Organ Mike. How we doing tonight, Organ Mike?
I'm doing well, thank you, Vitasia. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Really looking forward. This is the final Pink Puff League race, and it's been a fantastic community club season. We have a lot of Pink Puffs that have uh, been through this club, all through this season, and of course in seasons past. Starting off with the easy flag sets, and now we're here at the end. This is the final. Get yourself ready for a tournament flag set. Really looking forward to seeing both Falgren and Blues Eclipse run this seed for us.
Sounds like a really good time. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So these flag sets are designed to be a little bit harder. The Pink Puff League is, of course, as we mentioned earlier, designed to build up, go a little bit as we're moving onwards. Forward, it gets a little bit harder, a little bit harder, a little bit harder. This time we have 8 objectives. 6 of them have to be completed. And some of them are static, but defeat the gauntlet, defeat the boss in Lower Babel, complete Cave Bahamut, break the Dark Elf spell with the Treasury. This might look like a very familiar flag set. I think this was a flag set that was used just a tournament or two ago as part of this preparation. Now, Falgren and Blues Eclipse, are gonna test their mettle on this one.
And it sure will be fun to watch them. 75% of the objectives need completing. That's a good C average, actually. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. And as a prospective Pink Puff myself at some point, I would like to get into this, so it's always good to see what I'm eventually going to be up against in terms of seeds and games. So I'm looking forward. I keep saying I'm looking forward, but I really am.
No, absolutely, and we've had many members of the community that have come up and started in the Pink Puff League, then have gone on to be tournament winners at this point in time. So, even though the Pink Puff League is designed to be a beginner-friendly kind of get your feet wet introduction course to the Free Enterprise Randomizer, those Pink Puff graduates certainly are out and about in the community and winning tournaments right now. So always a good idea if you've never run Free Enterprise before and want to give it a shot and see if speedrunning's really your thing or if Free Enterprise is your thing. Come on, join us out at the Pink Puff League. Of course, we also have a lot of other community club showcases that are out there and many other community clubs that are open for anyone else who wants to join. So feel free to join us over on the Discord whenever you want. Let's see, we're about ready to get this thing kicked off, aren't we?
I know I'm raring to go. I like to point out the last time I ran a seed, we didn't have objectives. I had to find the crystal out there somewhere. So it's been a while for me.
Oh my goodness, that's ZZ1 era. I remember that particular era. I was around for that too. It was find the crystal and go. And it does look like we have a twin start with a blue robe to start with. So that might already be our answer to the where's the Fabul gauntlet with a twin start. This is really kind of interesting out of the gate.
That certainly gives them a good idea of what they could be looking for. That Baron key now suddenly becomes very important.
Well, it's a 50% chance that it's important because it could be the water hag, or it could be the Fabul gauntlet. Yeah, the blue robe could be either or, but it certainly incentivizes going to check that unless you run into it just naturally along the way.
And they're off.
I will say that that particular start really, I think, kind of lines it up to the point where I'm not checking the one-off spots. Miss Cave, Watery Pass. A lot of runners like to check that, but whenever you have any sort of monster hunt, 50% chance that we already know where it's at might change some routing decisions here.
Well, let's see where they end up going and see how it plays out for them. You know, if a strategy works, all of a sudden it's the right strategy, right?
Absolutely. So we have Blue's Eclipse going through and checking the Eblin Castle treasure boxes, and meanwhile Fulgrin was checking out, Baron City proper. Gave us a peek. We have a cane that's available and a very easy Dark Knight Cecil there available at the first spot. So some interesting information.
I seem to be having a little bit of technical trouble, but I'm still here. I think I'm still here anyway. There we go. I'm back with us now.
Yep, there we go. Looks like Fulgrin is going over checking what the free item is going to be over in Bedward. Of course, we don't necessarily care about the demist. It's just a flame whip. Now, normally the flame whip isn't that great of an item, just because of its restriction as a melee kind of weapon on a person that doesn't normally wear it. Flame whip and omnidextrous, though, a little bit different, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, the last time I ran a seed was several years ago, so what exactly does that mean in omnidextrous?
Oh my, I'm so glad you asked. So Omnidextrous is an interesting flag set. It's a wacky flag that was kind of highlighted in our last main tournament. Omnidextrous means everyone can equip everything. You have 2 weapon slots that you can have both weapons or double shields or a shield and a weapon. Everyone can equip everything. And then 3 armor slots in any slots, whatever. So your fighters, yeah, it's amazing.
Could be really interesting, especially if you have a good strong weapon that normally goes on a mage that could be equipped to someone with a little more strength, a little more speed.
Absolutely. It really allows different characters to do a lot of different things. Even though we have a couple of mages and really you want your mages to still maximize their maginess, there is absolutely nothing wrong with slapping a couple strength rings on a Porum, giving her a poison axe and a flame whip and just letting her start beat stuff early. That's a perfectly viable strategy.
Sounds like. There's an interesting question in the chat. If you equip 2 shields, do you still make normal attacks?
Yeah, it's just the punch animation.
That's fair, yeah. So it looks like they're actually going to be taking advantage of that flag and go searching for equipment.
Absolutely. This Omnidextrous is one of my favorite flags. It's classified as a wacky flag, but it's sneaking in there and being used more and more frequently. You can see our runners are throwing all sorts of interesting gear. Strength ring, black tiara. The tiara is a fantastic piece of plus wisdom gear that, hey, now Palom can equip, and he can equip 3 of them if you want.
But it looks like Blue's Eclipse is headed to Mount Hobbs to see who might be hiding up there. And
Yep.
possibly what box is up there, too.
Absolutely. And, once you get, enough equipment to really get rolling, it's all a matter of just making sure you have enough people to use the equipment that you got.
And only starting with 2 out of 5 characters, so... do we have the full complement of characters available to us in this flag set?
I believe we do. It's interesting. You have them all available. However, they're not all created equally. Just because everyone can equip everything, there's still some interesting restrictions. For example, Yang doesn't get attack power from any weapon that he equips, just like he normally doesn't get anything. So even though it's omnidextrous, equipping him with swords just doesn't do anything. He still gets all of his power from levels. His damage calculation doesn't change. So
That's interesting.
Yang ends up being not a terribly popular character, just because his damage relies the least on equipment and the most on levels.
And up here on the top of Hobbs, we've got Golbez, and I think that's a cane?
That looks like a cane. I don't know if this cane is worth it. We already know there's another cane available in Baron Inn. And man, this Golbez is a long cutscene.
Once you're in, you're committed to a certain extent. Plus, there's a whole bunch of treasures on the other side of them too.
There are treasures on the other side, but part of it is, I mean, when you're committed, like Blues Eclipse has at this point, once you've gotten to this point, yeah, go ahead and finish up the race or the fight. But I think if you can reset out of it, I think that's probably the quote unquote optimal play. We'll see if Fulgrim does that or if he resets out. Blues Eclipse is through though.
And got a few levels for his whichever of the twins that is. I can't tell them apart even at the best of times.
Oh, there's a very simple way to remember that. Porum is with the red shirt. Because of the R red.
Sure, that makes sense.
Only we also randomized the color palette, so
I was going to say that didn't look like the normal color palette, but generally speaking. So it looks like Fulgrim did not want to take that fight on, and the two of them are now headed to the Antlion Cave.
Plumerianite, I see you in chat. Yeah, nope. Interesting, the looting that we're doing. We're seeing some rune rings. Rune rings are fantastic pieces of gear. Great magic defense. Earthhammer is also a fantastic piece of equipment. Normally, it's just a Sid equipped weapon, but it does have plus 10 strength and decent attack on it for the amount of stats that you end up getting. So it's a great weapon at certain points in the game.
It looks like Fulgrim has decided to loot, and Blue's Eclipse just seems to be headed straight down to the Antlion. Those couple of treasures on the way. And who's hiding in the bottom of the pit? Kainatsu.
This is going to be a very dead turtle very quickly.
Yeah, 2 hits and he's done.
If this is a normal, pretty, low-hanging fruit, even before Omnidextrous, you have a lot of power early on in Omni, and there is a pink tail. How would you like a top-tier weapon right away with the pink tail?
I do think you'd need the hook, though, first, wouldn't you?
I mean, technically, but...
The twins, for all their magical activities, are not great swimmers.
I'm just double-checking if this is Force Hook or not. I'm double-checking the flag set. Yeah, it's Force Hook, so we have to get the hook to get into the underground. So that pink tail is pretty valuable right now.
And it looks like Blue's is going to check out Fabul and see what's hiding there. I mean, if you're looking for the Fabul Gauntlet.
I see chat talking trash about the white shirt. Hey, the white shirt is an amazing piece of willpower gear. That's good for one person, whoever your white mage is.
So let's see who's... Well, both of them are now headed to Fabul. Fulgrim just a step or two behind. Star Veils are available for sale there in the item shop, too.
Good discipline, checking all the shops.
My goodness.
Now, this is interesting with Val here. With Force Hook, Val tells us that this cannot be our intended way into the underground. That's not stopping this from being the Magma Key, but my goodness gracious, knowing that Val does not block your intended way into the underground, whatever we find beyond this point in the chain of events, say for example we get the Twin Harp out of here, we can guarantee that the Twin Harp is not going to lock our way into the underground.
Well, that is good information. It's also interesting to me that 2 of the 4 fiends have been seen in fairly early places.
And really, I think I like the fact that, we have a cane, we can get through it, but a lot of the equipment that we have that we're hitting with is really low accuracy equipment. Swords have higher accuracy in the game, 90, 99%, things like that nature, but the whips, the spears, the hammers, usually down between 80 to 70%, which means when you have a high dodge chance like Val in her spinny form, it's going to be harder to hit her and harder to get any damage done. So really kind of an inconvenient boss fight for the gear we've gotten.
And Blues has done the deed, but Falgren has decided, looks like, to go back to Hobbs and grab that cane, knowing that Cane is sitting there to break Val's spin.
I mean, we had 2 canes available to us, but and we got the piggy strat. So this is really interesting on Falgren. This is high level. So Golbez's paralyze attack does not work if you have another status ailment. So if you're piggied, towed, minied, anything like that, poisoned, he can't paralyze you. So using a lot of folks will, as part of the strategy, pre-piggy themselves, let the whole gas go through. That way we know which character is going to be alive and dead after the shadow attack, and then can pre-queue up the use of a Star Veil.
And we'll see how well it works, and I'm assuming it will go just fine. Still has Porum left along with Kane. And he's decided to bring back Palom.
I think wanting to get back as much experience on our Black Mage, because getting to Quake is still very important for our Palom, so we're still trying to get as much experience rolling as we can.
That makes good sense. And now we'll see what's the Baron in. Blues Eclipse finding the other Kane and a Dark Knight Cecil hiding there. And here's a question. If we get 2 Kanes, can we put them both in the team at the same time?
I do not believe in this flag set. It is no dupe party. So that is a specific flag that is turned on, but not in this particular flag set.
And the Dark Knight goes down pretty quick to a Flame Whip. And we see that's Mylon. There's another one of the 4 Fiends.
You jinxed us. We were getting all of the 3 of the 4 Fiends done in the first 15 minutes.
Where's Rubicant?
As always, he's hiding somewhere.
He's probably up there in Cave Bahamut just waiting.
Yeah, as our wonderful tracker right now is pointing out in chat, this Mylan is going to be paunchy. We do have a lot of equipment, and we have everyone sitting in the back row, but this is kind of a punchy spot.
Well, you can't punch if you're dead, so the ultimate debuff has been applied, and Blues Eclipse is through that fight and gets the pan for it. Interesting. It's a bit of a later game item that, our later game quest completion. Falgren has gone to loot the far side of Mount Hobbs and come up with a light sword, among other things.
Yeah, that light sword is really nice. I mean, I consider it acceptable endgame zero miss kind of weaponry, honestly. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly usable. It has great stats on it, high attack power. Just a great piece of gear for where we're at right now.
Blues Eclipse coming back to loot Eblin, and see where Falgren's going. Oh, Falgren, of course, is going to go try and take out that Valvulus now he's got Kane with him.
Yep, going to cost him a little bit of time, but also worth noting that he'll get. He doesn't have the pan, so hasn't done Baron quite like Blues Eclipse has. So he's really done a more thorough job looting. Probably has better gear, but that's not slowing Blues Eclipse down at all. In fact, Blues is now starting to open these monster boxes here in Eblin Castle.
I remember this being a ridiculously difficult fight back in the vanilla days.
It's still pretty difficult. You know, it's one of those fights that people generally try to do as early as they can, especially if there's key items hitting in the monster boxes. The experience that you get from them is great at that late early game kind of transition to the mid game level. They can be dangerous, but there's easy ways to deal with them if you have the right gear and right equipment. So really, they're fantastic boxes to loot, even if they don't have key items in them.
They're probably useful for experience too, I would imagine. This being somewhat, that is about the midpoint of the game, so coming at them with low-level characters probably has some benefit.
Oh, absolutely. And the Staleman Skull chest, ironically, is the most difficult to deal with because if you don't have anything that can sweep, a Boreas or a Big Bomb, J item, or a Palom who already knows Quake, that can be the most difficult one because there's so many hits that go through. The others are, as long as you have decent defenses or there are ways around them. This one is probably the most difficult to get through.
Yeah, Blue's Eclipse seems to be having trouble keeping his Palom standing, and that looks like the end of that fight.
Yeah, that's rough to see. But you know what? It's happened to every single person. This is why we do community clubs and showcase and things like that. Sometimes you don't know what you can and can't do until you push yourself to the edge of things. You gotta test the limitations of the gear and do that over and over and over and over again before things get comfortable.
A learning experience is a learning experience, after all.
Absolutely, and that's what club season is for.
Yeah, and Falgren is going to head in against the Dark Knight and retrieve his second cane. Presumably, assuming he can beat Mylon Zed. Sorry, I'm Canadian, it's Mylon Zed up here.
It's all right. We'll allow you to say Mylon Zed. And Falgren is having a much faster Mylon fight, but mostly because of his equipment. If you notice, Earth Hammer, Flame Whip, and then Kane, I think, was using Flame Whip and something else, really getting a lot of that fire damage out on it, and that Mylon fell over fast.
Yeah, Falgren kind of following the same footsteps that Blue's Eclipse is, a step or two behind him, but is catching up, especially if Blues gets stuck on this fight.
Rowdy Roddy Sniper makes a great observation in chat. Blues is leaving the Flame Whip on Palom. The interesting thing that you have to remember about the Omnidextrous flag set is that these items that are great with attack, you have to remember to take them off of your casters because most of those whips are, plus strength in order to actually hit. But they're also minus wisdom, so they weaken your spell casting.
It's an interesting balance considering the whips are intended in vanilla for a black mage.
Exactly, you're not intended, and that's the same. It's like a mini heroine robe. It's intended to buff your physical stats and weaken your magic stats entirely. That's the whole point.
I missed where Falgren ended up, but it looks like, is he in the Tower of Zot?
Yep, in the Tower of Zot, checking out this Flame Dog chest. It's very common to check this Flame Dog chest at the same time that you're checking the freebie and Edward. It's usually pretty low level and easy to get, especially if you have an Ice Brand, like I know we have at some point, or I saw. Plus, again, those monster boxes, you never know, and we know how important that is. Baron Key.
Baron Key. It was okay. Interesting.
Well, and it's a 50% chance of value. It is what it is. I still think, we still haven't found our way into the underground yet. So it still could very well be in one of these boxes that Blues is working on. But I, if I were a betting man, and I'm not saying I am, kids don't gamble. That Baron key looks really tempting right now to do above these other monster boxes in Eblin Castle.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's 50% chance that that is the Fable Gauntlet, which is a required quest, and there's also at least one key item behind there, or potential key item behind there, possibly more. So it may be worth the trip.
Well, and even other than obviously being with that blue cloak being right there, so a potential key item 50-50 toss up, it just makes sense to check it before going into the underground anyway. We still don't have our hook, so it could be our intended path regardless. But even if it's not our intended path, even if we find the hook in these monster boxes over here, I still think you do Baron Castle, because then you have the odd chance of spiking the magma key, so you can skip the whole thing if you can.
So yeah, you said hook is required, but there is still a magma key out there somewhere?
Absolutely, it's still out there. It's not the intended way. It's absolutely, the seed is intended to do it, but it's still out there. No, wait, hang on. No, I need to correct myself. Force hook means it is not available. So, never mind.
Magma key is underground in the chat. So.
Yeah.
But dropping the magma key into the well is one of the objectives. So finding
It is.
magma key is still significant.
Yeah, so that's my fault. There was a switch at some point where force hook versus anyway. Logic is hard, guys.
I think Blues has decided to abandon ship on Eblin and is headed to Ordeals. Definitely an interesting choice. Lots of things to see and do up here at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, this is interesting. Ordeals is kind of an interesting spot right now. Earth Crystal available there from the monster boxes for Valgrind. That's fun. I mean, we do have to open up the treasury. So that was another required item. Great to see it. Blues. Yeah.
Halbrena? Nope, it's Madra Sisters. Okay.
Yeah, Maga Sisters, but I think our gear is good enough. Like, we've already one-shot Mindy, which is the one doing all the casting. So I think we'll be fine. I think that was even a silence whip, yeah.
And there we go. There's Ordeals 1 down.
Falgren, meanwhile, working through these mad ogres. It's interesting. His Palom, I think, has a rune ring equipped, which would explain why there's almost no damage getting through to Palom. Yeah, Kane and Porum are certainly taking a lot of damage, but Palom can keep them up for a while.
And Blues is fighting Demist on the far side of the Ordeals Bridge. This fight is also not going to last long.
Oh, Falgren ended up resetting here.
Stand by us. I love that. That's great.
I mean, I certainly feel that way when I stream. So, I hear you. Demas goes down. So, Blue's certainly getting the experience that he needs. Now, this is another key item spot. We'll see what happens. Palom Hallam learns virus, which is significant, I think, for blues, and Porum learned berserk. Those are kind of certain inflection points when those two characters really start proving their worthful, how great they really can be.
And it looks like we just lost Falgren's stream, so hopefully we can get that running again, but we'll see. In the meantime, Blues is into the mirror room. Ooh, and a darkness crystal. And
That
a
is
moon glass.
interesting.
Oh, there's Plague. This should be pretty quick and easy. Well, yeah, there it is. One shot.
It's 1,000 health. It's perfectly fine. All right, so that's another key item unlock that completes Cave Bahamut. It does also unlock 2 monster box locations, a gated shop, and another character check. If we want to go through all of that, really interesting.
I mean, at this point, after having struggled a bit with the chests, I think boosting your power would be a reasonably good option. But I'm also speaking from a point of inexperience, so I'm not sure. That's just where my mind is going, saying, "Yeah, you know, you got the you've got the carrot. Let's follow it down the rabbit hole."
I want to at least, yeah, I would love to check that character. Blues, we know, tried to do the monster boxes in Eblin and didn't quite have the power. If you go up to that gated shop and there's hourglasses there, for example, I mean, that makes the monster boxes trivial. Plus, you can do the hairdryer's chest that's up there. I mean, with the equipment that we have access to, I think even the last arm check in the giant isn't out of the question.
Blues has gone back to Eblin, I think, with a little bit more kick, a little more power behind him, and see if that will do the job.
Yes, with K Moon and Monster in a box, that means the Lunar Subterranean chests are in play. I forgot that K Moon was turned on, so yeah, that does open up a lot. Although we're still intended to go underground first. That does. Ooh, okay. So, here's the interesting thing. That really starts limiting where the magma key can be, by the way. So that magma key we know is a key item, but the force hook now means that it can't be on the moon unless it's behind a key item that requires getting underground first.
We have Falgren back, and in fact, confirmation that Bagan is the Fabul Gauntlet.
Oof. Well, I mean, start looking for another blue robe. It was a 50-50 shot.
I'm not sure why we need another one. We found the one.
Oh, the gauntlet. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not the water hag. We're all good. But it's a lot of sewer monsters.
Yeah, you would kind of hope to. Well, we have virus. Virus certainly is good enough. It is a very fast spell, and with all the equipment we have, I've seen at least tiaras and rune rings, and sorcery robes. We should have plenty of spell power for Palom to equip.
And this Staleman fight still giving Blues Eclipse the runaround.
Yeah, that was such a bad sleep attack from the Staleman. Oof. And there's the Quake learn for our Palom. So Palom is really at his maximum efficiency at this point in the game. Meanwhile, Blues Eclipse is giving this Staleman Skull Chest another try. Oh, he's got a twin queued up. Flare.
It didn't seem to do a whole lot.
So I promise I know what happens there. So whoever you use to cast Twin, it will use the other Twin's magic casting stats. We have whips and a bunch of like plus attack power minus casting power gear on one of the two. You use it on one, that just feels bad. That should have done a whole lot more damage. Oh, did we get double blue robed?
We did indeed. Water Hag on the throne. And Blues Eclipse has decided to just throw Berserk on his cane and let the fighter do the fighting.
Does throw a life up. Looks like everyone is going to stay up for this one. So, hey, Blues does get through that fight finally.
And there's a couple good levels for him, hopefully.
Yeah. I would go out safety save. Just an Assassin Dagger there. Meanwhile, Falgren does get through the Baron Throne Room. We do have another character coming here, and it is... You've heard of second Canes. Would you like third Canes?
I can think of worse things, I suppose.
I don't know. I think I'd even take an Edward over the duplicate character at this point in time.
Be a little different if you could have all three Canes in the party.
It would be. Yes, it would be. That is not the world we live in. Well, there is the hook. So that is our intended way into the underground.
Okay, that's good to know. And we've got the Black Cat and Lamaya fight happening over on Blues Eclipse's side, which we know houses a key item. Is this where the Baron Key? No, this wasn't where the Baron Key was. This was...
I don't know.
Crystal, I think.
Yeah, this might be the Earth Crystal.
Yeah, the Baron Key was the Flame Dog in Zot. Well, which makes that really interesting, since, you know, you have to do that if the hook is our only way into the underground.
Well, that's our intended way. Absolutely. Now, here's the interesting thing, because Blues Eclipse will eventually get there. Worst case scenario, he has the Earth Crystal. That we haven't seen anyone do the Earth Crystal check quite yet. Minimum, he goes up to do the Earth Crystal and gets the Flame Dog checks on the way. So he will eventually find the right path. The Darkness Crystal at Ordeals is pretty huge as well.
No, maybe about it. Baron is hard required, Era. It's spelled Earth. Because the only way underground is the hook, and the hook is after the Baron Throne.
And we know the Magma Key, yeah. So at least 2 objectives are underground. So there's 3 objectives that are underground. We know the Magma Key is underground. To forge, you have to get underground. The boss of Lower Babel is in the underground.
Balgren heading into Eblon Cave and going to see what can be found down there. I think that's the second summon I've seen pop up. I'm pretty sure I saw an Azura summon show up somewhere else. So if there's Iridia floating around, there's Leviathan there.
Yeah, we've seen a couple. I've seen Leviathan, I've seen Sylph, I've seen Asura. They're certainly out there. At the
There's Azura
same,
for sale, in fact.
yeah, I think the issue is that it's not that it's bad, but Rydia kind of loses a lot. She, like, the incentive that you have with her is she's really powerful very, very early on if you can get one of those summons. Now that we have a Palom with Quake, like, a lot of the things that make Rydia with those summons useful kind of go away. Like, it's not still nice to have him, to have Rydia at that point in time, but their skill sets overlap quite a bit.
Blue's Eclipse has opened the treasury with the Earth Crystal to complete the 5th objective, and found, not a lot.
Yeah, that didn't look great at all. I think the best thing I saw in there was maybe a Gungnir Spear.
There was a Gungnir Spear, there was I don't know if a Crystal Helmet's worth much, but it was there.
I mean, the Crystal Helmet isn't bad, and Crystal Armor gear generally isn't bad, because throw them on your White Mage, because it does have plus willpower. I mean, if you want your White Mage to be a cleric and just be able to take hits like nothing other while healing, sure.
And Blue's going to check that absolutely vital Flame Dog chest, while Thogran sees a CPU at the top of the tower, or wouldn't be at the top of the tower, would it?
Nope, that's at the Ruby spot.
The Rubicon spot, okay, yeah, and finds our Dark Knight, who he previously destroyed.
So this becomes interesting because Dark Knight Cecil, traditionally, whenever you get a Dark Knight Cecil, the first thing you want to do is get that Dark Knight Cecil really activated, transformed into a paladin so he can start gaining levels in earnest. And and he rolled high too. He rolled a black sword. Fantastic. Here's the problem though. Dark Knight Cecil, during Omnidextrous, that can still equip everything. Yeah, his HP curve is horrible, but he can cast Dark, which is a good sweeper if you don't have a Palom. He's great in terms of using as an anchor right in the middle, because all of a sudden, you can use, he can equip dwarf axes and everything. He doesn't have great stats anyway, so it's not a bad idea really to keep a Dark Knight Cecil around, as counterintuitive as it is. The main reason for getting your Cecil online as a paladin, he's the only one who can equip crystal swords. Now everyone can, so it lessens his value.
I don't know, I wouldn't discount that life spell. I would, actually, but regardless. Looks like Blues is going to follow that Baron key instead of finishing the Tower of Zot, and we know that will lead to the hook.
The 2 Staleman monster box in Ebland Cave does give us the Luca key.
That could be a really interesting spot for that to be hiding, considering we're still looking for a magma key down in the underground somewhere.
Exactly. So there's limited spots that we know it can be. Top of tower, well, any of the monster boxes, and there's 4 in the tower, 7 in the Sylph Cave, and 1 in the Feymarch as well. There's the Feymarch freebie, there's Dwarf Castle, and now there's Luca Cave as well.
Algren just picked up another light sword on his way into the tower.
All right, and Falgren looks like this last monster box on the way for Mad Ogres can get a little punchy. You can't really, quake your way through it. There's a high magic defense here, but Palom is equipping both the Assassin Dagger and the Black Sword. This is both with plus, swoon procs. Interesting.
Well, hey, strategy's only weird until it works. Blue's Eclipse going to take on the Fable Gauntlet. Probably be quite happy to see that batch there. Apparently, according to Rowdy Roddy Sniper in the chat, there was another light sword in the Eblin Infirmary as well. So that's 3. And you don't need a paladin to equip them. So
No, there's the white shirt. Glad to see it was there. If you're just tuning in and joining us, quick recap of everything that's been going on. Falgren, the difference between the two runners, Falgren has opted to skip Mount Ordeals up to this point in time. Does have a Dark Knight Cecil that he found in the Hook route. Blue's Eclipse is he started up the Earth Crystal route, found the Flame Dog chest, found the Baron Key, left the Earth Crystal Tower of Zot to do Baron. We do know that is the path to the Hook. Falgren, meanwhile, got the Hook first, then got the Earth Crystal and just hasn't gone back. So, neither runner has really shown us exactly what's behind there, who those two characters are, or the bosses there, or the key item, which is perfectly fine, but I'm still curious. Just want to let you know. But really, the big thing, Blue's Eclipse, Mount Ordeals gives us the Darkness Crystal, which Blue's Eclipse has, and Falgren does not have. Cecil might drive him there. I don't know for sure if it will or not, but it'll be interesting because Blue's Eclipse otherwise is on the same sort of line path that Falgren is.
And Queen Azura is hanging out where Queen Iblana was, so be interesting to see how this fight goes. Doesn't seem like it's going to be too much of a struggle. Oof! And then he gets hit. Oh, okay, that... back and forth, I suppose. And now we see CPU in place of Rubicant.
Yep, that was a very punchy spot for an Asura fight, but luckily not a ton of HP. A Quake done properly, and then that was a light sword with a mute knife offhand, so it got through that magic, that mute weakness as a mage. So great knowledge of the equipment weaknesses there by Falgren. Does safety save, doesn't have to heal up, knowing that he'll get a full heal right before this fight.
I'm just taking a look at the objectives. So Lower Babel obviously is in the is in the underground. Bahamut on the moon. We don't know where the Twin Harp is. We have the Earth Crystal, and in Blue's Eclipse's case, is already gone and opened the Toroya Treasury. The Magma Key we know is somewhere in the underground, because that's what the flag set says. And the Legend Sword is underground. We have to do 6 of these 7 objectives, is that correct?
Yes, 6 of these objectives must be complete. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, we have, right now we don't have either parts of the forge. We're kind of the furthest away from that. But again, the Twin Harp could be absolutely buried somewhere as well. So we have access right now to doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have good knowledge of the 5th one. So it's really trying to figure out, do we find the Twin Harp first, or do we find the Forge first? Which one do we just run across in our normal checks? Because honestly, that's all I would focus on. I think it makes the most logical sense for Falgren, as soon as you're done with this CPU fight, stop, turn right around, and just go up the lower tower, because you might just run into everything else you need while doing that.
So the boss of Lower Babel, is that the one at the top of the tower where Dr. Luge normally sits?
Yes, exactly.
As opposed to the ones as opposed to the Dark Imps.
No, yeah, the Dark Imps one is it would be destroy the super cannon room. So yeah, top of defeat the boss of Lower Babel is where Dr. Luke would normally be.
And Blues gets the hook, and is probably flying to get the hovercraft.
It'll be interesting what Blues decides to do. He will pick up Cecil, but that Cecil will already be a paladin, so might make the equation different on whether or not you keep him alive or keep him as an anchor dead, just because his HP growth is really quite good.
It's spelled Aerith points something out in the chat that we didn't see the Pinktail check from Falgrim. Now that we have the hook, we see it from no. Looks like Blues Eclipse is just going to head underground as quick as he can.
I am disappointed in both of our runners. I mean, I like a good Pinktail turn in. That being said, we've not been we've gotten some pretty decent equipment. We've gotten some great light swords, some great whips, hammers. Like, we're not hurting for equipment. If I didn't have a decent weapon or I was really light on weaponry, I would probably turn that in. But honestly, we're doing all right. Oh, and it's just some sort of guard is at top of tower. We did get a peek at that on Falgren's side.
I suppose we might also see the Rat Tail be a required turn-in, perhaps as part of the Legend Sword or the Adamant, or with the Twin Harp. So.
Oh, absolutely. If we find a Rat Tail with a Pink Tail turn-in, we will. I promise we will see a turn-in there. But I think at this point, with both of them dodging it before going underground, I think it'll take a Rat Tail to drive us there.
So here's a question: given the flag set, we know that they're forced to take the hook. If the Rat Tail is underground, could that guard the Magma Key?
Absolutely, yes. Because you still have to get underground to be able to get it. That's why if the Darkness Crystal is underground, the Magma Key could have been anywhere on the moon. But because the Darkness Crystal was available before going underground, that prevents anything on the moon from having the Magma Key unless it also requires underground access, like the Tower Key or the Luca Key, which we know where that is, by the way. So it can't be. I just realized, that entire thing just sounded incredibly manic. So if we need to slow down and explain anything in chat, please ask us to re-explain things. We are here to help everyone learn. That's why the Pink Puff League is here, and that is why. By the way, there's a Magma Key.
I was going to say that looked like a key item, but I didn't see which one it was. So that's the Magma Key. All right, that's objective number 6 that can be completed now. Which then runs things down to where is the Twin Harp and where are the Legend Sword and Adamant? Everything else is accessible.
All right, just a full moon from that second one. Looks like we're making sure everyone has brought back up on Falgren's side.
So he is leaving the Dark Knight, having his little nap there.
Meanwhile, Blues Eclipse certainly has the spare equipment. Interesting, the Black Sword was available on Dark Knight Cecil, but just an Ancient Sword was available on the other side. The Black Sword, coincidentally enough, in addition to having plus strength, also has plus wisdom. Like, it has the same It has the same spell power plus spell power on it that a Lilith Rod does, of all things. So not a bad thing to throw on your Palom or Rydia or any other Black Mage caster you might have.
Speaking of key items, Falgren just found the Sand Ruby.
Eh,
Well, it does. Do we still get an experience bonus for having 10 key items?
I mean, yes, you still do, and it's another one for the pile. Ooh, that's a heroin robe. Um, Heroin robe is really, really good. Um, as you can see, we're stacking all the plus strength gear on Arcane. And that heroin robe is like an adamant armor light. Just, it's great for your attack power, folks. Meanwhile, we have, I don't know if this is officer soldier or the two officer fight. Um, it'll be really interesting to see which one. It's normally a pretty punchy fight, but almost no magic defense. So we'll see how this fight for Falgren ends up.
Two guards. And, oh, that's a ton of damage that Kane just put out.
Well, remember that these guards are technically considered mages, so he threw that silent staff on his cane, so it's rocking magic damage to them, just dishing out a beating.
And the package. An interesting draw.
I mean, not great.
Might be more interesting for Blues Eclipse because he's already done the Mist Dragon. So might make it more worthwhile to go and check out Mist.
Well, the Mist Dragon, keep in mind that the Mist Dragon will only hold a key item when Edward doesn't. So when the free key item is available from Bedward, Mist Dragon won't hold a key item from us to get from Rydia's mom.
I'm always amazed watching Asura do as much damage as she does in this spot.
Any one punchy will deal quite a bit of damage in this spot.
But didn't do a whole lot in terms of healing.
No, luckily we didn't necessarily need to lifelock Asura there. Not enough HP to do it, and certainly had the weapons to get through. But Blues Eclipse is now taking on his CPU fight. Ed in the bed only had an assassin dagger. Roddy. Meanwhile, Falgren is at this warrior chest. A single quake should do it, where we have the power at this point that none of these monster boxes should be terribly intimidating for either of our runners.
And just a drain spear.
Yep. Worth noting to everyone in chat, we are either a twin harp or a forge away from no mode. There's a spoon. That's a great attack power weapon plus, accuracy in the game. Doesn't have any stats on it, so there's certain limitations that are associated with it, but max out your attack power, then max out everything else that you can in terms of stats, because that is just a great thing to have.
That spoon also gives Falgren 10 key items.
Yep, the experience will start ramping up very quickly.
Straight doubling, isn't it?
Yep,
For
yep.
having 10
It
key
is
items?
doubling from 10 key items.
Doubled.
Oh, a Bahamut. Oh,
There, yeah.
these are very, very
Ooh.
doable. Those are incredibly doable. So King Spot being a Bahamut is, you just need a few Star Veils and you are fine. Asura being the dolls, it's not overly punchy, and you have a sweeper in Palom able to cast Quake. That is a very doable Fey March.
And we
Oh, and there's no K summon.
available.
There's no K summon. Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
I don't know what that means, so what does that mean?
Okay, K summon, that's the flag. K means where the key items can possibly be. So there's K Moon, K Summon, K Main, and K Miab, monster in a box. So whenever you're looking at the flag string, at the very beginning it'll say K, after the objectives, it'll say, okay, where can the key items be? And it's usually K Main. I mean, in this particular flag set, it's K Main, K Moon, K Miab, some monster boxes. K Summon means the key items can be in the summon monster location. So the two in the Fame Arch, the basement of Baron Throne Room, when you bonk Young with the pan, and at Cave Bahamut.
And speaking of bonking Yang, so we know this isn't going to be a key item, because this would normally be the Sylph Summon.
Correct. But it's
it
a
is
heroin robe,
robe.
which is still fantastic. Like they will still give you great items. It's just, and the pan happens to be required in order to do the two pan turn-ins anyway, or to do Sheila 1 and Sheila 2. So yeah, that's a great prize there. I'll take it.
Oh, for sure. No complaints.
Now it's worth noting that Sheila could have had the magma key because you were required to get underground in order to access Young to begin with, but we have the magma key anyway. So
Yeah, we know
just
where
talking
magma
about
key is.
back to that theory discussion we had earlier.
And Falgren is going to throw the magma key in the well at Agart, completing the objective, and putting one of my favorite quotes from Free Enterprise up on the screen.
Well, it's gone. But so it will be interesting because right now, like we mentioned earlier, we are very close to no mode, twin harp, and we're good to go. But we're also still looking for 2 parts of Kokol. Meanwhile, Blues is underground.
And no mode doesn't necessarily mean that we can complete all of those, since we don't know who's hiding at Cave Bahamut.
Yeah, it just means we kind of know our path. Well, there's the rat tail.
tail. I suspect we'll see that check very shortly.
It feels like it's coming, yeah. Meanwhile, Blues is actually going to show us the Toad monster check.
Fulgrim did this one as well, and I don't think it was anything of consequence. But Fulgrim managed to get a Quake off before they croaked. He croaked the croakers before they croaked, I suppose.
Yeah, that tiara protected our Palom from ever getting a Toad cast, so.
The pink tail is an Artemis arrows. And another light sword behind the rat tail.
Hey, I'm not angry at all the light swords. Well, I take it back. If I'm Fulgrim, maybe I'm slightly salty at all the light swords because I don't have the personnel necessary to swing all these light swords. I'm that meme of the guy with like the overflowing light swords. Like, what do I do with all of these light swords? Give me characters to swing them, please.
Fulgrim finally going up ordeals, which will give him moon access. Which is not necessarily necessary if the Twin Harp or the Legend and Adamant are all underground or on places we haven't seen on the main world, but Cave Bahamut is up there, and probably that free character check, all those monster chests in the Lunar Subterrane, all the monsters in Lunar Subterrane, probably looking pretty tempting when you see that Darkness Crystal show up.
It's possible. You know, if it's really interesting, if I'm either of these runners, I'm wondering why you haven't done the Earth Crystal turn in yet. I want a fleshed out party pretty early, personally.
Yeah, that's a good point. The two of them seem to have stopped at 4 characters, considering there's several other characters available 1 or 2 fights away.
I mean, it's possible that both of them have made the calculated decision, and it's not unusual to make that same calculated decision of, hey, I had to go up halfway to get the hook. I'm going to, you know, intentionally fade the Earth Crystal, knowing that, you know, maybe my opponent continued to go up. Because that's really how you get an edge in any sort of randomizer, is making decisions not to go some places and not to complete some things. That's how you can get ahead.
And Blue's Eclipse doing some cover strats with his Paladin Cecil to take out the warriors.
It was smart.
And not checking that freebie, or at least not checking it right away. Oh, well, also, yeah, has no room in the inventory, so that makes sense.
It's like, yeah, let's fight our inventory boss first. That completely makes sense. Meanwhile, Falgren gets the interesting news that, hey, you have to level up your Cecil. We're not going to let you.
And one-shots the plague.
All right, so let's do some math here. So we know that there are 6 monster boxes that we still need to check in Self Cave. We have Luca Key and Dwarf Castle. So that's 2 others checks that we can make that's still in the underground for a total of 8. There are, let me see, in the moon, how many monster boxes are there? Help me out, chat. In the meantime, there's Also, there's Mura, Masa, Ribbon Room, which is 2, White Spear Altar, and Crystal Sword. So that's 6 there.
Yeah, there's a lot in the subterranean.
Plus 9 in the subterranean, plus the Lunar Path and Giant. So that's 2 more. So that is 17. So there is just over double the chances of places to be up on the moon if you want to go up there.
But also, the only objective known to be up there is Cave Bahamut. Maybe you take your chances to see if you can find the Twin Harp and the Legend and the Adamant all in the underground. And also the pass, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Looks like Falgren's going to try and check out whoever's behind the throne. Soba drops for sale if you want to raise your magic points.
All right, so here comes Falgren into Dwarf Castle. I like making at least this check, but then I think I'm committing to the moon.
Blue's Eclipse has picked up the Magma Key and the Sound Ruby and also has 10 key items now. And the Lunar Dragons are hiding behind the throne.
Oh boy.
Oh, this could be fun.
Falgren attacked the D-Lunars with a... Yeah, Virus hurts in this particular spot.
This is Calbrena's home. Okay, 1 down, and here comes the Quake. And fire is just 20% of maximum hit points, correct? Well, he got through. There's a second boss to come, though. 22 levels for Cecil.
Yeah, I think fire is 25%.
I always love that first fight after that first big fight after you change Cecil's class, and he gets all the levels. Oh, and it's a freebie. That's the King of Eblan, isn't it?
It's not free. King, no, that's the king of that's Odin. So
Yeah, my bad.
won't hit too hard. Well, kind of hard, but not a ton of HP here. If you can get a good lightning hit off, you should be good.
And Sid has joined the party too.
Like a lit 2 here would be fantastic, or if you had a blitz whip to swing. Although I think, yeah, we're good to go.
Here only has about 2,000 hit points, I think, if I remember.
Yeah, it's very, very low hit points. It's what they tried to make a cutscene before cutscenes were a thing. This is how we did it in the early 90s, folks.
I mean,
All you young kids.
3,000 hit points.
Now the warp glitch is not turned on, so we will not be able to double up here in Dwarf Castle. We do have the Luca key, so if we wanted to go check out what the Luca cave had for us, we could, but otherwise we'll at least know, hey, Luca, what can we take off of you? Hey, she had a sword for a necklace.
There's 1/3 of the way to never needing to go to the moon. Or I guess 1/4 if you want to count the pass in that.
I mean, we have the Darkness Crystal. We don't need the pass. We would like the pass.
Valyria Knight saying, "Great, now I feel old in chat." Yeah, I joined the club.
So here's something interesting. Falgren is taking his shiny brand new Sid and saying, hey, here's a dwarf axe. We're going to slow you way down. Trying to get this RA1 speed set up so that we guarantee Palom is first and will act before the monsters and can get a Quake off. Now, I don't know if just a dwarf axe is going to be good enough for our Sid to get this RA1 set up. I think normally you have to put something else on Palom, like a ninja hat or some other plus speed gear. I thought we also had a drain spear, which is minus 10 agility for that agility manipulation, but maybe someone who's more knowledgeable on the agility tables can help me out. He is pretty slow, but I think we just, like, Palom's pretty slow too, and to get that 2.5 times.
Yes, there is a drain spear in the inventory.
All right, he got it off.
And Murasame. Interesting. And Blue's Eclipse has turned in this pan.
And here's the thing. Porum just went first, so Palom got skipped over. So yeah, we're not at the RA1 setup.
So for those of us who never mastered the nuance of agility and relative agility, what?
All right, so the first thing you need to know about agility and relative agility is that it's all black magic. Just accept that and you'll be happier. But if you want to get into the weeds on it, this is kind of a good time because to explain it because it's relevant to the conversation. So in order to save space in the programming, enemies don't actually have any speed in the way the original game was programmed. The speed of the enemies was always based on the speed of Cecil. So when we entered into the randomizer and was doing all the program behind the scenes, at some point we were like, hey, we want to not have to have Cecil in the party. So in order to enable that, we made all of the monsters' agility really just run off of, have a priority list. But in short, whoever's in the center slot, the monsters will have their speed and their, based off of the agility of who is ever in the center slot. Lots of equipment can affect that agility. Dwarf axe is -5, Heron or robe is +10. So giving that to your middle character, whoever it might be, can speed enemies up, slow enemies down. Sometimes you want your enemies fast. A lot of times you want them slow. The RA1 setup is really very, very nice because it sets your party order in a very predictable 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very top person will go first, then the very bottom person will go next, then the second from the top, then the second from the bottom, then the middle. If your middle character's agility is very slow, and it has to be at least 2.5 times slower than who would be in the very first slot. That's a lot of math and figuring out. If your middle character is very slow, you have the RA1 setup and it will go in a very predictable order at that point in time, making fights a whole lot easier at that point.
That does sound like some kind of sorcery. And
Yeah.
Blue's Eclipse has decided to at least raise the whale. So we could see a serious divergence in routes here.
It will certainly be interesting in terms of the route divergence because it looks like Blues is prioritizing the moon. Meanwhile, Falgren's trying to stay on the blue planet. I think getting that legend sword certainly incentivized Falgren to stick around. Blues Eclipse has not found that legend sword, so we know, unless you find the twin harp, you're going to have to come back down Well, even if you do, you're going to have to come back down at some point. So, really interesting, this decision-making process. However, it's worth noting, Falgren is almost through all of the monster boxes in the Fey March anyway.
I think Blues has a different goal in mind. He just bought himself a whole ton of life potions. I think he may be headed for a D-machine grind to get his levels up. Especially looking at all those key items.
Well, D-machine grind really is only beneficial when you have someone who can cast weak, like Atella that's fresh off of everything. Blues Eclipse isn't set up for that. I think this is just, he may have just been buying the life potions and then saying, hey, by the way, there's a monster box here that is kind of off the beaten path, so it's worth checking.
Yeah. There's also a character behind 2 bosses, but we don't. That's a lot of fighting.
Yeah, I don't know if this is necessarily worth a character check. By the time this is worth a character check, you're probably strong enough to beat Zeromus.
Yeah, it's only be if there was a required boss back here that you'd really want to take this on.
Meanwhile, Falgren does finish up the monster box in the Fey March. Some places to note, Falgren has not done the Luca Cave check, has not done the Earth Crystal turn-in yet. So there are still 2 places on the blue planet that Falgren may be able to check, but he is at least opting to, hey, let's go ahead and check, do this turn-in and let's start doing moon checks.
Blues Eclipse gets the pass from the last arm. Well, isn't that interesting?
Of course. That is one of the most disrespectful places to have that. The only place worse for a pass can be is in the ribbon room. All right, that's disrespectful.
But it may also lead Blues Eclipse to just never go to the moon, depending on what he decides here. If he decides to go back underground, finds that legend sword, perhaps he continues hunting there, or maybe opening. I guess we'll find out, but maybe opening the giant was just the prelude to actually heading to the moon, since he's got the whale to do it.
It's true. I mean, Falgren is now checking this particular location, so I have to think he's. It might point Falgren to making those 2 checks, but remember, there's 15 checks otherwise on the moon, so 15 versus 2, and you're looking for 1 of 2.
Well, we're going to see who's at Cave Bahamut too, I think, which is a reasonable thing to do if it's a free boss. Might be worth just grabbing it and getting out of the way.
I mean, it's not a bad decision, I don't think. Plumeria, you did not miss Sealed Cave.
Sealed Cave did not happen.
Yeah, we did not see Zot or Sealed Cave. What's not on Falgren's tracker? Zot or Sealed Cave or Luca Key and Earth Crystal? Either way, misclicking trackers, that can be part of it. That can be part of the game, which I think we've all been there too. Sometimes it bites you, sometimes it doesn't. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Blues Eclipse is showing us. Oh, was that an Optimum?
Yeah, I thought that was a bit of an octopus leg, so. Yup.
I've gotten way too good at recognizing, tentacle pixels.
I don't think we need to know too much more about that.
No.
Yow! That's a lot of damage on one hit.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. This is a very punchy location, and we have. I mean, Cecil is singing for a ton with that Blitz Whip and Spoon.
And that takes care of that.
You know, I didn't know if it was the greatest idea to take that on, but Blues Eclipse just handled it like a champ. Rewarded with the Defense Sword, which is another great piece of gear for his team to swing. Plus, gets through the objective first.
Now we're just on an item hunt, looking for either the Twin Harp or the Adamant. We know where the legend is. Blues Eclipse does not have it, though. Falgren does.
So really, the interesting thing at this point is, you know, Falgren having the Legend Sword uh, is the difference. Blues has kind of a, you know, certainly I think Falgren has checked more things. You know, he's cleared out all of Self Cave. He's cleared out, you know, a number of other checks, but all that time, just Blues has been making very efficient use of his time in checks. He may have gotten into the underground about 10 to 15 minutes after Falgren has, but based on the straight line path, you know, unless, you know, I don't know, but you know, if the adamant rock is up here fairly early, Falgren certainly has the advantage. But if the twin harp is the first key item, Blues Eclipse is already 5 of 6 complete. All he needs is his levels and his party, and he's good. Falgren has, I think, a more sophisticated party setup right now, and there's an Avenger. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Falgren also could do objective number 5 at any time. He's got the Earth Crystal. The Teroya Treasury is just sitting right there. I'm sure he's fully aware of it, just is just waiting for an opportune moment to go do it. Falgren also had better equipment than Blues, so or did more search off the top. So Blues may have gone to open the treasury, seeing that it was an important objective. Might as well do it and see if he can get any good equipment off it. And who's hiding up here on the moon?
I don't know. We've had access to this character for a long, long time.
Yeah, since Ordeals. And it's Iridia.
See, Blues Eclipse doesn't have his 5th character yet, so we're going to rock with this level 1 Rydia. I think maybe you just say, okay, here's my agility anchor, and just keep a level 1 Rydia. And I think you're set at that point in time. You have everything you need. Falgren already has his party set up. I can't imagine him taking that Rydia unless it's explicitly to be an agility anchor.
Oof, that's still 2,000 points of damage on that one hit. Yeah. Falgren taking on Octomam in Cave Bahamut.
Yeah, that Blitz Whip was doing work. And here's the problem. We have Cecil swinging a lightsaber. Optimum is actually light, like a light elemental. He will take less damage. Or Octomom, she. Sorry, I want to make sure I gender properly. Octomom attack like is light aspected, so will take less damage from light elements. The idea being that the dark sword in the vanilla game hits harder. Yep, Octomom has resistance to holy.
So does the Mist Dragon, too, I believe.
Absolutely.
Blues Eclipse going deep into the lunar subterrane here.
Yeah, this looks like a standard kind of bottom-up play where diving deep to prioritize the moon altar locations. You got the Ribbon Room and the White Spear altar, and then Masa Moon, kind of all in this general clump together. Keep in mind these 9 monster boxes that are up here on the moon also could very well have anything at this point.
And ooh, the evil wall at this spot could be real ugly.
I might reset out of this and make sure that I have my Rydia agility anchor set up for this.
It's not hitting too hard, so there's that anyway.
No, but this place does have a lot of HP. Remember, the D-looters are usually here, so that's a lot of HP to chew through, and we're on a timer.
Yeah. We're just gonna log up things with a couple of berserkers and let it ride, I guess.
Yep, if we can manage to get Palom up, this would be a great chunk of experience for him. Looks like that. Not quite.
Ooh, just missed it. Still, it's one fewer opponent to take care of. And there's the twin harp. Hello. That puts
First check on the moon. Wow.
That's put Blue's Eclipse into go mode. Just got to go do that. I assume it's just going to go do that twin harp, and then possibly grind for levels. And he's got the pass. Away we go.
Yeah, not sure how much more grinding we need to do. I mean, that was a nice chunk of experience. Again, I think Rydia is going to be your agility anchor for the Z setup. We certainly have the weapons and the Zerkers between Cecil and Kane. All you need is really to nerf and even throw a couple weapons on Palom and Zerk him up as well, honestly, because you can, because that's how we're set up. And might be good to go.
And Fulgur, meanwhile, checking some monster chests. If the adamant pops up, we're in the same situation on both sides.
It's true. I mean, we mentioned it earlier, but there's a few things that, okay, just a Stardust Rod. There's still a long cutscene that Blues is going to have to go through with that twin harp. But it is still possible if we can get that adamant rock. Keep him. Yeah, we still have to check the treasury, but with that pass, it certainly minimizes the work that encompasses. It's not often in this particular flag set that you can see that kind of divergence, and they both still end up being the quote-unquote right call. So really, this is stay on the edge of your seats. It's worth noting Fulgrin is also, because of all those monster boxes he did in the self, his team's levels are perfectly fine. Don't have to do anything else. It is, as soon as that adamant rock shows up, we're good. And Palom just learned media. We're close to nuke already, with another Avenger because why not?
Well, that's great. You can set up 2 berserkers before you even cast a spell. And we're going to get the twin harp music, and we'll see Leviathan in a pretty nasty spot there.
Yep.
So
Party.
We'll see you on the other side of the twin harp, I guess.
Absolutely. We'll let DJ Spoony B mix his songs up for us and see you on the other side. Well, we got a little extended music because of some cutscene stuff that was going on, but not a lot.
That was possibly the easiest elements fight I've seen.
Just a, yep. Now, Blues Eclipse, we were talking about levels. His Cecil and Kane certainly look up to snuff, but it'd be interesting to see if he's comfortable taking on Zeramus at these levels. It's close. We'll see if he wants to go do some grinding somewhere or is going to call this good.
I love the image of Kane just wearing 3 black belts, one on his head, one on his body, and one over his arms.
Hey, stats is stats, man.
We're seeing the 2 dragons fight in the treasure box.
Yep, this is commonly known as Bimmy and Jimmy.
And it looks like Blues Eclipse is just going to head straight for the big one.
Okay, this is gutsy. This is a little bit low level, but can get through it certainly. Meanwhile, Fulgrim continues to loot out the moon. Is taking kind of a top-down approach, which, again, perfectly acceptable. I think many of us have done the top-down approach. This time, bottom-up just ended up being cash money for Blues Eclipse.
So for any who don't know, Zeromus is far too dangerous to just put out there in the world somewhere. So instead of randomizing what or where Zeromus is, the free enterprise community has decided to randomize what Zeromus is. So when Blues Eclipse uses that crystal, we're going to see a completely different sprite selected from, I think we're up to over 500 of them now. The Z question mark flags are coming out in chat. And we have to answer the eternal question of just whose butt are we going to kick tonight? And we will find out.
And the crystal, we have the RA1 set up, I believe, which is why Iridia is starting that.
And Zeromus's true colors emerge, and we see. I like it.
Ah, we must get the moose and squirrel.
Spicemus. Yes, the twin terrors of Potsylvania.
Boy, the propaganda was a lot more hardcore in our cartoons back in the day, wasn't it?
Oh goodness, Boris and Natasha, yes, and they're with nukes, no less.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to make a big bang, very big bang. And the amount of damage that they're putting out, the Cecil and Kane here, just tremendous and constant.
Yep, it's going to be very heavy. We have the first Big Bang nerfed, and now it's going to be about throwing a Cure 3 up on Porum and Palum. keeping those, I mean, making sure your Zerkers stay Zerked. We're dealing a ton of damage per swing, though. We may not see another Big Bang.
And Rowdy Sniper is showing the credentials in there. Didn't think that nuke would be bad enough, but apparently was quite fatal. For any who don't know, Boris's last name was Badenoff and Natasha's was Fatal. Yes, I watched Rocky and Bullwinkle as a child.
Guys, all we're doing is showing our ages on the internet. This is embarrassing.
Look, I run games older than this, so frankly... Now these numbers are high enough. I'm not sure. Even if this next Big Bang doesn't get nerfed, even if it shows up, I'm not sure that Blues Eclipse has much to worry about here. It would take an awfully big roll to just shut him down.
It would take a high roll and then an immediate, a wombo combo, as it would be called. Big Bang right into a medio phase. And at least our two Zerkers are up and rolling. But that was it.
The end of that. Well done, Blues Eclipse.
Yeah.
Falgren, meanwhile, is just got the news of the Twin Harp. Didn't even bother to open the other chest. Just saw the Twin Harp and bolted.
Okay, Falgren. When you go back and watch it, just in case that the Adamant Rock would have been there, that's a shorter check. You should have made that. Just letting you know. But I get it. You see go mode, you exit out. And GG's to Blues Eclipse. We'll see if he's available for a quick chat here.
Definitely well done.
Worth noting that Blues Eclipse was third place overall from the community at 138.33. Shout out to Matic, who finished at 128.46, and Nerukad, who finished at 134.25. Great job to all the Pink Puffs who finished. And we are joined now by Blues Eclipse. GG's.
Yeah, good game. Well done.
Thank you.
Overcame that early hang up at that headline and came through very nicely.
Yeah, those early trap chests were not cooperating with me, but fortunately, the mistake I made at Zod actually helped me make up some of that time.
When you say mistake at Zot, is that the not finishing the whole thing?
Yes. I realized after I was in front of Baron, oh wait, I actually have the top of Zot check. And then said to myself, you know what? If something I need is there, it'll stay there.
The interesting thing is that Falgren checked that before he had the Earth Crystal, so we have no idea what was there or what characters were there or anything. We're as in the dark as you are.
Okay, so
if that's where the Adamant Rock is, then you're going to be kicking yourself even more. But, you know.
Well, I never did see the Legend Sword, so Adamant Rock really wouldn't have helped me.
Well, wouldn't have helped you. Falgren found it in Dwarf Castle.
Ah, another check that I decided, you know what? I don't really need this. I figured with what I had at that point, getting to the moon was the better play. And fortunately, it paid off for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the side-by-side race that we saw here, you were, maybe after that Eblin Castle, you were a little bit behind. I think you were about 10 minutes behind Falgren in terms of getting to the underground. But as soon as you got to the underground, it felt like you made every minute count and every check just hit, and you just, got to skip all the fat in the seed. We were even a little bit worried that you were underleveled going into Zeromus, and you handled it perfectly.
Yeah, I probably should have tried to nerf the second Big Bang, but like you said, I was probably a bit underleveled going into that, and at that point I figured, okay, either my two Berserkers have the power to handle this, or they don't.
If I can pop in, Just watching the key items pop up on your screen there, Blues. The adamant was after Luca Cave, so the moon was almost unnecessary.
Ah, okay. So,
Almost.
yes, I mean, still would have had to go there either for cave value or for the twin harp. So, in my case, it worked out because I figured Ribbon Room was going to get me some of my XP anyway.
So
And you
walk.
checked for one fight, so that was a good call, and turned out to be absolutely the right one. So
hmm
So I was going to say, walk me through that decision process. You know, there different people have different philosophies, top down, bottom up. When monster boxes are thrown into the mix, it kind of makes the math weird. What drives your decision to do that bottom up check first?
In this case, I needed one key item, and I figured any one of the altars had a better chance of having that one key item than than any one monster box. And just those 3 bottom altars on the moon combined, I'm fairly certain have better odds than all 9 monster boxes combined for having any given key item. So my thought was, okay, hit the bottom first. It's going to give me the high XP from Ribbon Room. I've got the 2 other altars down there that I can do if Ribbon Room doesn't hit. And then I can start working through monster boxes on my way up if none of those 3 altars hit.
well, yeah, it turned out to be exactly the right call this time. And I don't think that the other way would have been wrong. It's just a matter of that just happened to be where the twin harp was. So
Yeah.
worked out nicely
And
for you.
yeah, and in other practice seeds on this flag set, I've done top down. Just again in this particular situation, and especially with the issues I had earlier on, and I figured I was behind pretty much out the well, not right out the gate, but after that Eblin issue, I figured I was significantly behind at that point, and part of my thought process was I can't take the time to check every trapped chest on the moon. If Twin Harp is there, I've lost anyway.
Well, any other thoughts on the scene? Any other things you'd like us to be aware of, and like the viewers to take note of?
Honestly, I will admit, this seed did not play out the way I was expecting it to. And I definitely got lucky, but at the same time, it's just how the rando goes sometimes, I guess.
I do have one last question as well for you.
All right.
So this is, of course, the final Pink Puff League race for this season. Can you give me kind of your final thoughts on the Pink Puff League as a whole? You know, the different flag sets getting tournament ready, so to speak, throughout the season. Like, what's your overall impressions?
It's been a very enjoyable league. And I will freely admit, for this entire league, I've pretty much been running neck and neck with Lord Goober. And honestly looking forward to seeing how the final standings actually break down there. Though at the same time, I do have to give props to Matic, because he came in halfway through the league and just utterly dominated every race he's been in.
Interesting you mentioned, because I think it was Matic that came in first to this one too.
Yep. Like I said, every race he's been in.
Well, let's hope that everyone's tourney prepped and ready to go, because it's almost tourney season here.
Yep, and I am looking forward to that. I actually do plan on participating in this one. I did not participate in OMG, so this week was actually my first exposure to the flag set.
Well, great. Look forward to seeing you there.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure I'll be on the comms at some point for some of them. And
Uh,
Falgren has just taken Spyzimus out just for the just so you know.
Yep, and GG's to every one of my fellow Pink Puffs, both for this race and for the league as a whole.
well, and GG's back to you, Blues. And enjoy the rest of your evening. And yeah, take care.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Falgren does finish at 147.32, and it does look like we are now joined by Falgren. GG's.
Oh, thank you guys. Whoa. You want to talk about a needle in a haystack?
Made
What levels were you at by the end of it? I'm seeing like 4,000, 5,000 HP on your party.
I was level 60. I haven't been that level probably since I beat the game on the Pixel Remaster.
Yeah, you were blessed with getting a lot of key items early on, so you had your 10 key items before you even started checking Sylph Cave, so that just ramped you up pretty quick. Walk me through your thought process going through here. You found, what was it, Earth Crystal in the Eblin monster boxes. Did you ever consider going back and doing that?
At that point, I wasn't going to. I didn't want to check Armory because I had done a bunch of looting at that point. I knew Zot was in the cards. I didn't want to go up there too early, especially because I believe I had the hook at that point too, or was close to getting the hook.
The hook was behind
just
the
wasn't
Baron Key, the hook was behind the Baron Key in the Flame Dog chest.
Oh yeah,
when you
that's
went
right.
up to Zot.
Yeah, I did, because it's always Flame Dog unless I check it early, then it's never Flame Dog.
And then you just followed that right back to Baron and didn't bother doing the top of Zot. You would have found the tower key up there, apparently.
Yeah. Mostly because I knew there was a blue robe. Well, I mean, there was two blue robes, that it turns out, but I knew there was at least one blue robe in Baron, so I wanted to get that check out of the way. Was happy that it was Fabul. Little did I know Water Hag was waiting for me anyways, so that turned out kind of nice.
And again, not just Fabul Gauntlet right there, but the hook right after, too.
Yeah, that was Baron was a very fruitful check. Especially at that point, because I'm like, all right, I don't want to go up ordeals, which wish I had. But
Yeah. Walk me through that, because it felt like you were committed to having that Dark Knight Cecil as your anchor set up for a while. You kept him knocked over for quite a while, but then, hey, you had to end up going up ordeals or doing that check, and it ended up being the Darkness Crystal. You could kind of almost feel that, okay, I guess I'll take a Cecil.
Yeah, OMG is one of the few seeds where I'm like, okay, I have the Cecil. He's going to be my floor person for a while. Just, I figured if ordeals didn't have anything, great. I have my anchor all set up. If ordeals did turn out to be something, great. I have to run back down, but I have a Paladin Cecil.
That early party setup was a little bit, it was a little bit difficult. You had 3 Canes that were running around. One of them that ended up being on Golbez. I think both you and Blues Eclipse grabbed him. But it was one of those, well, there's another Kane in Baron, and there's another Kane, I think. 2 were in Baron, ultimately. Did that change, like not having all the party members, did that change your routing and decision-making at all in that early part of the game?
A little bit. I was very determined to go with just the twins until I ran into that Valvalis. Because I had no desire to do DKC off the bat, and I didn't want to sit through Golbez on Hobbs. But I kind of took it at this point. The nice part about OMG is, well, anybody could really end up being a relatively decent physical DPS. So I was going to see what the chests and what the key items took me and just kind of roll with it from there.
It seemed to work out pretty all right for you. You had a pretty good run of things.
Yeah, and fortunately, I ended up with a black robe, relatively, not tiara, relatively quickly. So even with the low level spells, I had to throw one out with Palom. He was going to do some decent damage at least.
Yeah, you had some pretty awesome equipment coming out the beginning, right out the gate, more or less.
Yeah, that was not a concern at all. Armor maybe for a little while, but when you're swinging for 1,200 damage, pretty much right out of the bat with Kayn, you're not doing too bad for yourself.
You don't really need armor if the enemies don't live long enough to hit you.
Exactly. Best defense is a good offense.
Did you finally have a place for all those light swords that you ended up picking up?
I kind of almost wanted the edge just so I can get rid of them, but I was almost tempted to start throwing them on everybody for Z, but at that point I had seen everybody hit and done, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go in. Because I figure at level 60 I just have to survive that first big bang, and I pretty much won.
Yeah, that's pretty much what had happened too. To wrap things up here, of course, this is the last community race for the Pink Puff League before the next tournament season. Can you give us your final thoughts on the league and club as a whole, and the prep that you've had for the tournaments coming up?
Well, this is my second go around with the Pink Puff League, so Asuka just does so much work behind the scenes, and really, really want to give her flowers for everything she does for us. But it's always been fun. It's a great community. Especially if you're new, keep an eye out for when the next signups come on. You learn a lot.
All right, fantastic. Any other final thoughts before we let you go for the rest of the night?
Nope. That was like I said. I really wish I had thought to go to the moon sooner, but what can you do?
Really, the only difference was a top-down to bottom-up decision. That was the difference maker there.
Yeah, and I usually don't, but I'm like, I'm just gonna hit trap chest too, just double my odds, because at that point I was so powerful that I didn't, what are the behemoths gonna do to me?
Just put more experience into you. That's all.
Oh, it's a little bit more,
All right, but GG's. Well, Fallgrid, have a great rest of your night and great race.
All right, thank you guys.
Very good.
And with that, we are going to wrap ourselves up from this Pink Puff League Community Club Showcase. Great shout out to both Fallgrid and Blues Eclipse, our runners. Also want to give a shout out to Plumerionite, our restreamer, and It's Spelled Aerith on the tracking, and of course Organ Mike, my co-commentator. Always a pleasure working with. I think this is my first time working with you, but I look forward to doing more.
Oh, and I'm with you, Vitasia. Thank you very much. A great shout out to you as well, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. We're going to be rating one of our community members, Flossie Fern, who is running a seed. Remember, no spoilers for the race in case someone wants to go back and watch it. But have a great evening, everyone. Join us over on our Discord, and we'll see you at the next race. Have a good night.
Till next time.